I've recently released a couple of videos covering some of the key tools I use for managing mine and my clients' websites. And part of that process is managing backups and updates. If you'd like to take a look at those videos, I'll drop a link to the playlist in the description of this video. I'll also pop a card in the top corner right now. Today, I want to show you how I handle updates and ensure that if anything goes wrong, I have a remote backup of just the changes, and if anything fails, I can quickly restore the site back to how it was prior to those updates. For this, I'll be using WP Vivid Backup Pro and its auto backup before updating feature. For me, this is one of those features that gives me peace of mind knowing that if something goes wrong, I can be back online within minutes. Yes, in a perfect world, you'd set up a staging site, but let's be realistic here. How many of us have the time to do that for every client site that needs updating? WordPress and the plugins you have installed have almost daily updates, and to set up a staging site every time there's an update simply isn't realistic from a cost or time perspective. Now, in my humble opinion, this is the next best solution and removes the time taken to make and reinstate a full backup, especially for larger, more complex websites. Now, with that out of the way, let me show you how the process works so you can implement this into your own workflow if you're using or thinking of using WP Vivid Backup Pro. So let me just show you how it works, and then I'll show you how easy it is to be able to implement this into your entire process of updating your WordPress sites. Now, it's worth bearing in mind, this is a pro-only feature. You would need a pro account to do it. But for me personally, it's one of the key reasons why I bought into the plugin, and I bought myself a lifetime deal so I don't have to worry about making any kind of problems. I can just roll things back very quickly without having to roll back the entire site, to be honest, just the plugins. So let's just come over into my dashboard, and you can see I've got a couple of updates ready to run through. Now, if we go into the plugin section, we'll just go and take a look at our installed plugins. We'll see we have a couple that are available for update. So we scroll through, find out, there we go, there's a couple there. So we're going to select those plugins. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to say we want to update them. So we'll apply that. And what will happen is it'll take us over, say, start backup the following files and database. So it's going to back things up to update these particular plugins, send that over to my remote location. So wherever I've set this up, whether it's OneDrive, Dropbox, or so on, sends that over, and then I've got a backup in place just of those updates. Database is being updated, all the files are being updated, everything is in place for me, and then, only then, does it run the update process on those particular plugins and or themes. And there we go, it's done. I've got that backup sent over to Dropbox, and my backups are all done, knowing that if something goes wrong, I can roll it back. Okay, so how do we go about setting it up, and what actually happens once this kind of backup process works? Let me just show you that, first of all, how we set things up. So the first thing you're going to need to make sure you do when you install WP Vivid Backup Pro, whether that's the free version or the pro version, you need to set up your remote storage location. So you come into the settings, the backup and migration options, into remote storage, and you can see currently there are all the options. So you've got things like Google Drive, Dropbox, pCloud, and so on. You just choose the one that you want, and for example, Dropbox, for example, and then you can just drop in a unique alias for that, any other information you want on there, authenticate that with the backup location of your choice. Different backup locations may have different ways of authenticating. With Dropbox, you literally just click on Authenticate with Dropbox, and it should pretty much do the entire process behind the scenes for you. Now, I've covered setting things up with WP Vivid Backup Pro and the free version in their own dedicated videos. I will drop a link in the description. So if you want to take a look at those, how to set things up, and a little bit more in-depth guide to how you use this particular plugin, check those out. I'd highly recommend it. So once you've set that up and you've got everything connected up, what you need to do then is come over into the settings section. And from there, we can scroll down a little bit and you'll see we have auto backup before updating. So this is, you enable it and it'll just basically create a backup of your plugins, themes, or core files before you update them. And this is the key thing here. It's taking an incremental based backup. So for example, if you update 3 plugins and a theme, it'll only back up the 3 plugins and the theme and any core files that may be edited. It doesn't back up your entire site. So when you have a bigger site, a more complex site that could be using an absolute ton of storage, the last thing you want is updating a half a dozen plugins in a theme and suddenly you've got to have your entire site backed up to another location. Obviously, you could do that if you wanted to. You could set scheduled backups, automated backups, and all those kinds of things. But this is more to do with when you're making an update, to auto backup before updating. You simply have two options once you enable that. You can either store the backup files locally, so this would be onto your server, wherever that's located, or you can send them to your remote storage. And then you can roll back the folder under the custom directory. So you'll have a section inside there that's for rolling back to making changes, updates, and so on. So that's basically all you need to do with it. It's super simple. Now, once that auto backup is done, you can see that I've got a range of different backups, all varying in sizes from 94 kilobytes up to several megabytes. That's because each time this is done, it depends upon the files that are being updated and so on. So we open up the latest one, the one I've just done now to show you. We'll open that up. And you can see inside there, we've got a JSON file that allows us to run this and put it back into its original location with all those changes rolled back. And if we open up the embedded zip file, and we take a look inside there, you can see again, we've got the JSON file, and inside the plugins folder, there are the 3 plugins that we just updated alongside an index.php file. So only those 3 folders for those 3 plugins are backed up. So this is where I'm talking about the incremental backups. It just makes life so much easier without having tons and tons of space being taken up with massive backups when you only need to back up certain portions of your site for updating purposes. So now you've seen how to do the incremental backup. How would you then roll back if there was a problem? Well, from inside your dashboard, you're going to come into your backup and migration options, and inside there, we're going to choose the backup and restore tab. Open that up. You can see that shows us the local host if we have anything stored on the local server, or our remote storage. So we're going to choose remote storage. Inside there you can see we may have multiple different locations, at which point we can choose this drop down and find out exactly where they are. I'm only using Dropbox for this example. Then inside there you've got what do you want to take a look at. You can see we've got the overall backup, which is the WPTuts_co_uk. Migration, if you were doing that. Rollback, which does exactly what its name suggests, or incremental, which are incremental based backups. So if we choose incremental, for example, and we say scan the folder, that's going to look for any incremental files it finds inside our Dropbox location. So you can see nothing is inside there. Same goes for migration if we scan that, because I'm not setting anything to migrate. However, rollback is going to give us the options to find any files that allow us to roll back to a previous state. So we choose rollback, scan that folder, and inside there you can see we've got exactly the same as what I just showed you now with all those zip files on my Dropbox folder. And you can see the file size, the date, the type, rollback, the log. So if you want to check out exactly what's going on, you can view the log files, the storage location, etc., etc., etc. So what you can do now is you can check that option and then you can click to restore. You could download it or you could delete it. So you have full control over this. So if you then restore, it'll take it back to that point in time prior to where you made the update to those 3 particular plugins. What's your typical workflow when it comes to updating and backing up your WordPress websites? Drop a comment below so we can share ideas and tools to make the process less stressful for all of us. As always, all of the applicable links for this are in the description below. My name has been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.